Hey everybody, my name is Mark, and today I would like to share with you my de-poonified yucca. All right, so I want to talk to you guys about my We Knives yucca again. I don't know if any of you saw the video that I did a while back. It was pretty recent, probably within a week or so. And so I got this knife in, and there were a lot of things that I liked about it. I liked the basic shape, and I liked the size and the weight and everything else. It's a pretty long knife. This is seems like it's almost a 4-inch blade or something. We can check real quick. Seemed like it was on the larger side. So yeah, that's right at 4 inches, and it looks like the cutting edge is probably 3 3/8 or something. So it's a pretty big knife. It's a full size knife, and I got it I think on a trade, and I like it a lot. I like the compound grind on the blade. I really like the way that looks. And we were able to tune it. It had a really weak detent right out of the box. And so just using the back flipper was pretty weak sauce. And so we took some time and we tuned that up and we got it flipping kind of like where I was happy with it. That left two things basically. This knife had kind of a giant poon way out here. It came way up in the air and then kind of came down back to the tip. I have no idea why. It had to just be an aesthetic choice, because I've seen some knives with like a kind of a subtle poon up here, and it's close to the, just over the blade window. And so when you're holding it, this does have jimping. And so if there was a poon right there and it was small and the jimping kind of went up to it, it would just kind of serve to lock your finger in there a little bit and keep it from sliding forward. And I can see that. And I think I have knives that have something like that, but it's a lot smaller. The one that was on here was just huge, and it was way out here. And because this is almost a 4-inch blade and it came out here, there's no, like, you can kind of use this as a finger choil, but it's definitely more of a sharpening choil. And if you were going to slide way up there and try and like rest your finger against that poon, you'd still have to stay back here on the handle. And so, like, with my finger stretched out like this, it still wouldn't have hit that poon that was there. That poon started like right about here, and it was super tall. It looked kind of crazy actually. And so because of the way the video went and I was able to tune it the way I wanted and get it, kind of drop shutting and everything else, those were kind of the prerequisites for me to decide whether I was going to have some further work done. And the work that I wanted to have done was to have that poon removed. And so my initial plan was to send this to Way of Knife. But they must be super busy right now. They actually have 4 of my knives. And, I'm patient and it's all good and I'm not screaming about it. Those guys do good work and it's just a couple of them. And so, they're working. But they have 4 of my knives already. And so they've had those for a little over a month now. Probably like 5 weeks, something like that, maybe 6 weeks. And I think what happened, I've sent them things in the past. It seems like it's been a lot quicker than that, but, all the blade shows hit. And so I think it kind of really messed them up. They might have taken some time off to tour a couple of blade shows, and then they might have gotten just a ton of work in. I don't know what happened, but they've still got my stuff. I didn't want to send them another thing, so I went ahead and just did this. And I got to say, it turned out pretty good. It didn't take very long at all. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I used. And then when I was done, I kind of put a semi-mirror polish up here on the crown. And so this is exactly what I wanted. This is the blade profile that I wanted this knife to have. And it turned out really pretty well, I think, just for like being hand done, So the way that I did this was it was all by hand. So, well, a Dremel. So I did a lot of it, the initial stuff, just with a Dremel. And I'm using on the Dremel for cutting the blade. I've also used, this is like a little diamond bit, and I use this to ease the lock bar area of the Payson, which is titanium. And I got to say, these things cut and they don't wear out. They cut the titanium actually easier than this blade, I think. So it took a little bit to get it down where I wanted it. One of the things that you will find is if you're using round bits of any kind and you're doing it by hand, you're going to end up with waves, and it's impossible not to. It's just one of the things that happen with rotating equipment when you're trying to hold it by hand and follow a straight line. I'd have to have a fence and all kinds of things, and probably, a different something other than a Dremel, maybe mounted in a table like a router, or, there's all kinds of equipment that I could have to use, but I don't have that stuff. So this was like, I wasn't just spinning it with my fingers. So, I mean, that was good. I had a Dremel. But I got the blade down to where the poon was pretty much gone, and I was able just to follow. There was kind of a line here for me to follow, but I had to bring the poon down to it to even start chasing that line. And then I found that the line was a little, I guess, higher. It was off from this curve right here. And so I had to kind of blend that, just all by eye and by hand. And so once I got it down to where it was like really pretty close and I could start hand finishing it, then I started using this. And so this is 400 on one side, which is the only side of this that I used on that. And it's got a handle. And so I was able, like I've got big kind of armored motorcycle gloves that are super thick. And so I was just holding the blade, with my gloved hand, and I just started, shaving it down. And I got it to where it was like really pretty smooth and pretty blended, actually, just with that 400 stone. And once I did that, then I switched over to sandpaper. And I think I started with 1200 because that was already 4. So I hit it with 1200 for a little bit, and then I went up progressively higher all the way to, I think, 3000 sandpaper. And that got it like really pretty shiny. This is not, by no means is this a mirror polish. A mirror polish, I'd have to, use compounds and actually, and I wouldn't be able to use like, it's kind of strange because I've got a big buffing, like a tabletop bench buffer, and it's going to be here tomorrow. But I wouldn't be able to use that on this because I'm only doing the crown. And as soon as I put, if I get a rouge or a paste on the my buffing wheels, as soon as I put any pressure on it, it's going to wrap over the top of that crown. And so I'm going to end up with a really uneven polished line on the, the face of the blade. So doing just a crown like this, it's actually I found a lot easier and more precise to just do it by hand. Because that's a pretty, big bevel up there, and it falls off almost 90 degrees to the blade face. And so, I just kind of wrapped, I've got these little like polishing blocks, and these originally started off as a kit, and it's Velcro. And so the sandpaper that came with it just has, Velcro backing, and you just kind of stick them on here, and then you can use it. But I didn't buy any more of those, and they're kind of padded, and I didn't really like the way the sandpaper cut. It was pretty low quality sandpaper that came with this kit. So I bought some much better sandpaper that's super sharp and it cuts really well. And it came in a kit. It's a stack of sandpaper that's probably this tall. I think it's 20 sheets per grit. It starts off at 400 and it goes all the way up to 3000. So it's like, and it's really pretty good quality sandpaper. So, and all that came from Amazon. So anyway, I would wrap it around this, starting with, I think, 1200. And I just started, hand polishing the top, turning it over, and I got all the way up to the jimping here, and I just went all the way out to the tip. And then I went progressively higher, all the way up to 3,000. And then once I had that done, and I've been using these for years on gun parts. My girlfriends got me onto these because I used to steal theirs, and I'd get in so much trouble. I would give them back to them, or they'd find them back in the bathroom, and they'd kind of look like this. And so, they would start bitching. I wasn't. I mean, it wasn't real trouble. I can be fairly charming when I have to be, and so, they were a little miffed a little bit, but I'd buy them some more and make it all better. So. But I've been using these for a long time. So, the dark side is a certain, it's the roughest one on this little pad. And it is kind of squishy. And so you just start hitting it with that, and polishing it up. And then you switch to, and it's actually got directions on here, but you switch to this one's purple. So you do that one, and then you come back to the white, which is basically like, it's probably a little finer than like a magic eraser. But like a good quality magic eraser, the kind that don't fall apart. And then I used that, and that is the finish that I ended up with. So I think it turned out pretty good. I probably saved myself, $100 or something like that. And it probably took about 3 hours once I got started, taking little breaks in between, especially with the Dremel. The Dremel, I would go pretty slow, but still trying to take as much material, as I could. But the blade would warm up a little bit, and then I would stop. And, I'd come back to it, 10 or 15 minutes later, and then hit it again. That process didn't really take all that long. That might have been like 45 minutes, maybe a little longer. And then after that, it was all just kind of hand polishing. So the only thing left on this knife, the other thing that I found that I didn't like is the blade window. So I'm kind of like, I like a reverse flick, and I like, not so much a back flipper. I like a front flipper, but this will never have one of those. But doing a reverse flick with a blade window, especially when it has a blade window, that's kind of my jam. That's what I like to do. With this, because it's not open all the way, you can see that web of material that's left in there. So when you're actually grabbing it and you're trying to reverse flick, it jams your finger up into this area really close to the pivot. And you can't really get your finger in there because it's a pretty small hole. And so I can kind of do it sometimes. Yeah, I can kind of do it sometimes, but it is really tough. And so I think what I'm going to do next, because this, blade like reprofiling or whatever turned out so well, I'm going to do this too. So basically it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a lot quicker, but I can take this diamond bit and I basically clamp this to a table, wrap it in rags and stuff so it doesn't mar the surface, clamp it to a table. I'll leave this off. And I'll just go in there and take that web out, just like that. And the diameter of this, I have different diameters. I was going to show you. So if you want some of these, they're pretty inexpensive. I want to say it was like 10 or 15 bucks. And I got these on Amazon. And with a name like Sworker, right? So I've got different sizes in there, but it looks to me like if I chase this web out of here going in that direction, that the diameter of this is going to be about the same as that. And so I'm going to get in there and try and do that. I'm not sure how I'm going to put like a finer finish in there. Maybe some little barrel sanders, which I have some pretty small ones for the Dremel also. So I could get this, and I'd really have to take my time and like cut this very carefully with the diamond bit. And then come in there with like a little barrel, they're pretty heavy grit. It's probably like 150. Those little barrel, sanding barrels that go on a Dremel. So I can go in there and, kind of finish that up. And I can even put like a slight bevel around if I need to. But I believe that if I open that web up and I get this full window, that This little area might screw me up a little bit because they are, they stick up a little bit, but not on the top. So I think I'm going to have room to put my whole finger up there and kind of flick it out. And so that's what I'm going to do next. And that's kind of it. So I just wanted to share this with you because I thought it turned out pretty cool and it saved me some money. And it was really easy, actually. So that is my de-poonified wee yucca. And I appreciate you watching. Thanks very much.